Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today.
Every 2 miles, I need to change a cylinder because then it gives a little bit of a window. The furthest I ran with a BA set prior to the marathon was I did 2 cylinders, so I did like 5 miles. And stupidly, this was probably like 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 days before the marathon. I did it with just a t-shirt on, and it rubbed me back to pieces. I had all these sores on my back and on my shoulders and my lower back. And then on the Sunday, I taped myself up as much as I could. I got some lads to tape me up. Anyone who would look at what we've done will generally think we knew what we were doing. We absolutely winged the crap out of it, and it just worked.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
All right, mate.
Hey, brother, how are you?
Let me start a video. Not that you're going to want to see me. I look a bit mental. All right, mate. How's it going?
I'm surprised how much I'm not hobbling after the weekend, actually. I feel really pathetic because I'm going to talk to you about the weekend and knee and stuff like that. And I know the challenge you've just done. So I kind of feel like I can't even share it with you. But no, just wind up Ben Nevis over the weekend. Really great bunch of firefighters, and just a friend of mine's prepping for an Everest thing. So thought I'd head up there with him. But I'll be honest, I was kind of nervous, because it's the first big thing I've done with the knee. I mean, obviously I did the London Landmarks half marathon in fire kit, which again is...
Yeah, I saw that.
Underappreciated in comparison to yourself, but nonetheless, I did that. But this was like the first. It's that going downhill, isn't it? I mean, you'll know this far better than me. It's that knee over the toe.
Well, most people get injured coming down. I think everyone always thinks that everyone's petrified of climbing mountains, but it's actually coming off them because it's just that impact in it, constantly pounding your joints, and especially like someone like yourself, you're a big lad, mate.
Yeah, but we can all make those excuses though, can't we? People say that. They're like, oh, long limbs for lifting or this for running and that. And I'm like, I don't know if it's all relative. I mean, I think there is an aspect of those.
Yeah, I agree with it. You can definitely buy into it and use it as an excuse. But I think there's a certain amount of science to it as well, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. But then there's the argument that for me, it's less steps or whatever. People would say, you're big fucking long steps. They're in 3 leaps. But no, I certainly felt it coming down. But honestly, the drive back, so for me, it's like, what is it? It was about a 6-hour drive back, and the knee didn't seize up at all. And like weeks previous, if I drive for longer than an hour, the knee feels like it's locking up. So I was super excited because I've got a bunch more mountains I'm going to do this year, just going about with some friends and stuff like that. And this was one of those where I was like, but you're right, you can let those things define you otherwise. You can lean those excuses in and go, well, I'm X, Y, Z, or I'm big, or I'm too overweight, or I'm too tall, or I had an injury once, and you're like, yeah, I agree. And fucking what? Do you know what I mean? It's what is that? Is this a comma or is it a full stop? It's up to you if it's the end of something or is it the beginning of something else. It's a bit like the old chapters of life analogy. I always say to people, you can probably lift really hard and heavy for like 10 or 15 years, and then you kind of need to pick a different avenue because I don't think the body can take that pounding for that long. And I wonder if it's the same with running. I mean, how long have you been running now? When did you properly start doing the ultras?
Yeah, I've been running for a long time. I'd say ultras probably last five years, ultra distance. And even then, I'm very particular about mid distance and what I know what I'm good at running.
Yeah,
and I tend to stick around that. But yeah, I agree. It's like, I think with everything, there's a lifespan on a lot of things, especially any impact or heavy lifting or all like that. Yeah, it's going to take its toll at some point. And you don't want it to kind of define you, where you come to that point where you get to that crossroad and you go, yeah, I can't lift anymore. And then your will falls apart because all you've done is lift and that's all you know.
But also, if you've built your personality around that, it's half the problem. And that was me when I was in my early 20s. I was like, Pete,
Yeah.
the big, strong guy. Okay.
Yeah.
You've made that fucking 90% of your personality now. And that's a problem. And I see this a lot with people in services as well, where they're like a career firefighter for 30 years. But I always say to people, you're more than the thing you do because you've
Yeah.
built yourself around this identity. And then you kind of get that identity crisis where you're like, well, if I'm no longer that thing, then who the hell am I?
Oh, mate, I honestly couldn't agree with that more. Like, amount of firefighters you see, and I don't think it happens in many other sectors where, like, retirement's the holy grail, like
Mm.
in our job. And people are like, I'll walk into work and people are like, yeah, 7 years, 6 months, three, and you're like, what?
What the fuck?
And
You
and
don't
then
want to be
people
here. Don't
get
be
to
here.
retirement.
Mm.
Yeah, people get to retirement. And I think they think it's going to be this like holy grail, like life's going to be amazing. And you're like, if you don't know how to enjoy life, like when you get to retirement, you're going to have too much time.
Mm.
And like I said, we are massively like institutionalized. You know, what I mean, we get up every day, we're told to what to wear, to shave, and then suddenly people leave and they go, all right, so like for the last 30 years, 30, 40 years, I've had to do all these things. Now I don't have to do them. And I think they think that that's like it's like yeah, some like holy grail, and I
I
don't
think as
think
you
it is.
get
I think
closer
it
to
is
the
if
edge as
you
well, people get petrified of the edge. They start when they realize the edge is coming, like the edge of that cliff, the analogy of retiring. People get closer to it and then they actually start to lean back and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go. Because you're right, it's the structure, but also it's the purpose. They say,
yeah
especially for like men's mental health and stuff, we men need a purpose to be here. We need a purpose to be something. And you have that purpose to other people. Someone's relying on me to be there at 6 o'clock, at 7 a.m. They're relying on me to be
yeah
on parade. As big or as small as people like to think that is, you do mean something to somebody else, to an organization, to the community. And then you kind of lose that purpose, which for people like you, and I don't know if like connecting the dots backwards, you have either actively or unknowingly created different purposes in the stuff that you now do, whether it's Rue, whether it's cycling, whether it's all the marathons that you do, whether it's the charity work that you do. Was that like an active thing for you? Have you consciously built a world outside of the thing that you do? Because a lot of people may not even know you're a firefighter. I'm sure probably most people do. I certainly listen to
yeah
this, everybody will know, but like in the general community, you'll actually be known for several different things, whereas some people are just known for one thing.
yeah. I'm not sure to be honest with you. I think with social media is I think it shows you how easily you can like portray yourself as
Mm.
certain things because it's just a snapshot of your life and people really buy into thinking or he just runs every single day, or he just does this every single day, or like I said, or they're a firefighter and all they do is talk about firefighting every day. And you go,
Yeah.
I'm literally showing you what I want you to see.
Yes.
And yeah, but yeah, there's definitely an element where I think I've definitely honed into I found the things that I love doing and honed into them, and I feel very like fortunate that they're like my passions as well. I've not
Mm.
took them from anyone else. The things that I've kind of evolved and developed, and yeah, and they're my things that I hope I can do forever. You know what I mean? I hope when I'm 80 year old, I'm still going for a run. And
But also, it's this, like you said there, it's the stuff that you enjoy. Because how many times are you at work and you hear somebody say, oh, any idea how much my mate gets paid as an HGV driver or as an electrician?
right,
And you're like, okay, do you want to be a fucking HGV driver? No,
yeah,
then shut the fuck
yeah,
up. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And people do that.
Oh
Oh, I need
mate,
days off. Do you want to come and do this? Do you want to come do that? And it's only in maybe the last 5 years for me where I'm like, but I don't enjoy that. So I don't want to do it, irrespective if it's £600 a day. I'm not going
yeah,
to enjoy it. And I'd rather, like the podcast, I'd rather do something that maybe makes fuck all money, but eventually might develop into something but I know I enjoy it. And this is probably the first
yeah,
business I've done, if we even call it a business, where I can genuinely see myself doing this forever because I'm addicted
yeah,
to people. I love people and that aspect of it. And it's really fulfilling, similar to maybe the stuff you do up in the mountains or with Rural, with the charity stuff and the
yeah.
cycling. It's like the purpose is serving something a little bit bigger rather than helping me pay the mortgage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and do you know what, Pete? Like what you're doing, mate. It's very very cool, and I think yeah, you should give yourself a massive pat on the back, mate. Like it's awesome what you're doing. Over the last few weeks, I've listened to quite a lot the different episodes, and
There's some really
yeah, they're
shit
very
ones,
good.
but there's some good ones as well. but no,
But
but I
no,
always
no,
say it's
mate.
nothing to do with me. I always say it's the people, as it is. it's really sad that somebody like me has had to do something like this. It's sad that it didn't already exist, to be honest with you, because you spoke to millions of people in emergency services who are fascinating, and you're like, God, no one's ever going to meet this woman or this guy or this person.
Yeah. But mate, you're the link. You're doing it, mate, and yeah, it's awesome. Like I said, I think you need a massive pat on back for it. I think it's very good what you're doing, and yeah, and just I think just the way that it's obviously easier from a fire service point of view to see how you're gauging your episodes, but yeah, just the kind of relevant stuff and the culture stuff, and yeah, it's very good, mate,
It's
and
weird.
very
You just kind of keep
engaging.
your finger on the pulse and kind of feel where things goes. But also, I like to. Some people think it's romanticized a little bit, and we'll move off this in a minute. But it's like I don't romanticize emergency services, but I try and support and like promote things that we want to see more of. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying there's no negativity, and we've done stuff on cultures and all that sort of crap. But it's like, do you want to see more of that? You know, I don't watch any news. I haven't watched it in 15 years because I don't want just this torrent of shit. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I know people, unfortunately, are getting raped right now. I think people are, be hurting themselves with the international search and rescue stuff. I can look on GDAC every day and see the natural disasters that are happening all over the world. But is that what you want to see more of in your day-to-day life? And I think the things that we talk about and the things that we practice and promote and recognize are the things that will get repeated. And that's why I love connecting with people like yourself, because then they become part of your sphere and they kind of have it's the people you surround yourself with, the things you listen to. What are you? I always try and stand guard on the edge of my mind and be careful what I'm letting into my mind. And I mean, maybe that's a good thing for us to maybe start with, I suppose, because from obviously the SAS stuff, the stuff you do professionally, but then the people you engage with on a day-to-day basis in your physical activities as well. How much value do you place on things like value of association? Because you had some great people supporting you on the marathon as well. I mean, we'll get on to talking about that. But
Yeah, I think it's like, when people say like, your vibe attracts your tribe and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel very, very lucky that yeah, I've got a really good like network of people around me, and we've all got similar interests, or even like some of my closest mates like got no interest in like running or fitness or all that, but yeah, for some reason it just works. Like it's, and I think that's just the fire service in a nutshell. Like I said, I was ex-military before, and I think I really believe that the fire service is like the closest thing you'll get to that kind of environment and that kind of family. And it proved it again last weekend. Like we went down to London and I spoke to a few people in LFB, and they were like insanely like supportive. And we slept at East Greenwich Fire Station, and we used a few fire stations along route for like dumping sets and cylinders. And it's like true like hospitality, like as in like it's real, like people will literally go out of the way to help you, and it's like that family. It's like literally is like as if your cousin phoned you up and said, "I'm passing through. Any chance I could sleep at your house or do this?" And you'll be like, "Yeah, of course you can. What food do you like?" Or and
that's
it's
it,
like
mate. And I
it's
find that more and more when I speak to people all over the world, firefighters and emergency service operators in general, police, paramedics, military, they're all of a similar sort of ilk, their kind of moral compass and their values. And that's when you go to some of these events organized for services, you kind of don't worry if your bag's zipped up or if the car's locked or whatever, because you're just around a culture of people that, if you look over and like I take my kids to the firefighter challenges and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's right, they're stood with that person, or I can just see that person's got a tunic on or whatever, and I'm like, no, that's fine. I'm feeling more
yeah,
comfortable.
it is good. And like a couple of years ago, we rode for charity. We rode Land's End to John O'Groats, and we stayed at fire stations every single day. And I honestly just like I love that aspect of it. Like as in, you know, coming out your own little bubble, because we are all in his own little like
Of course we are.
service bubble, and coming out of that and speaking to other people and like mixing with other people. And I think the more you do it, the more everyone kind of walks away and goes, yeah, you know what, we have got the best job in the world, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
you get suckered into like that watch mentality and sitting there, and you find every reason,
Yeah.
to complain about the role and what we do. And I think the minute you kind of step outside it, and like I said, you meet more people, and you'll have done it 100% with firefighter challenge stuff. And yeah, you realize like how many good people are actually in the fire services.
I always
It's
say
like,
you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've got to zoom out from it, and you don't realize what you're part of until you just step back and you get that kind of holistic view. Because it's true, like they say, where your focus goes, your energy flows, or the old biblical style of, seek and ye shall find. If you're looking for bad shit, if you're looking for shit to complain about, of course it's everywhere. You know what I mean? My dog's just had a poo in the kitchen. We've got two new puppies I picked up on Saturday. One's had a poo. Okay, grass needs cutting. Okay, this. That. If you focus on it, 100%, of course it's there. But that's the same in reverse. It doesn't mean blinkering yourself and saying the world is full of rainbows and unicorn tears. It's just saying, what do you want to focus on? What do you want to see more of in your life?
Yeah, and I definitely feel sometimes that's I guess the bad side to like fire service or maybe like the public sector is you can become like blindsided to like reality. It's
Hmm.
like you know what I mean. Like I think I'm very fortunate that I had some like really rubbish jobs before I joined fire service
Hey,
and some
100%.
and I think that it goes a long way when you join in because you can definitely like different tell the difference between the and it doesn't make any difference, but the lads and lasses that kind of come straight from like university or straight from like education,
Yeah.
and I think when they've been in the role for a long time, they can become quite blind to like what reality is, and you almost want to go like, mate,
Because their
this isn't a
spectrum
real
isn't very
job.
big when they start. Like you say, when you have them shit jobs, it starts your spectrum at a different place. So your spectrum at zero is actually minus 28 for them because they've never
Yeah.
had that zero. So I mean, take us there for a minute. Let's go toe to toe with some shit jobs because I've had some fucking shit jobs in the past. What was some of the stuff you did before you joined the military?
So I actually worked at a concrete uh, factory. So he made like concrete fencing and fence posts and
Yeah.
like paving and it was hideous. Like, as in, it were brilliant. And I like now I sit and I'm so grateful that I got to do it.
Mm,
Literally got paid pennies. I started it when I was like 15.
mm.
Like, it used to be a Saturday job, and I got like £20 for the day. And I thought I was like a millionaire getting £20. Like, and we were literally, I like stood outside a massive concrete mixer all day
Yeah.
on like a big table that vibrated and just shoveled concrete, and it just vibrated on and but I was like so grateful for it because it was like hard proper graft, like proper graft. Like you were lifting and dumping all day, and you were
Yeah.
lucky if you got 10, 15 minute breaks, and like just
And
conditions
even
were
in
like
that 10,
horrendous.
15 minute break, you had to go and make a tea for everybody else. My dad ran a
Yeah,
building firm for 50 years, and I used to go. He never let me work with him. Well, I did sometimes on the weekends, but like when I'd be suspended from school or whatever, during the weeks, I'd have to go and work with a different crew so that I'm not the boss's son and you get any treatment. No, I'm not having any of that shit. You're going to go and work for so and so. So I'd go with them. And they'd have me making tea, picking up shit from underneath. You're walking underneath the scaffolding, and everyone keeps kicking stuff off the scaffolding. It's landing on your back and on your head. It's not bricks, but it's all just shit. And it's all when you come home and it's all coming out your ears, and you go in the shower and
yeah.
just all that shit coming out your nose, and
Like
then
just grimy, innit?
yeah, everyone's sitting in the
And
van and they go, right, before you join your fluent, mate, you can just fill that skip. And you're like, yeah, fucking okay. So you just go fill in a skip and the barrow falls over on you and you go end over end and face first. And you're just like, for fuck's sake.
but it definitely like molds you, I think, and makes you appreciate
Character
things. And
building. Yeah.
yeah, I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends over there, and I asked him, I said, "Oh, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you?" And he said when he were like 9, 10 year old, his dad were an electrician, and he's a little bit older than me, so they were probably like late 80s.
Mm.
And he said his dad were an electrician, and he was screwing a light fitting up, and the screw fell and landed in his eye. And he said his dad was self-employed. He ended up in hospital. They had to like remove his eye and operate on his eye. And he said for like 6, 7 months, he literally just laid up in hospital, couldn't do a thing. And he said they lost their house. He had to move in with his grandparents. And he says, as a young kid, he said it was like a really hard time. They had no money.
Yeah.
He barely saw his dad. And he like coming out with all these things. And I'm like, when you look back though, do you feel like that made you like a better person, or what were like the benefits? He's like, oh yeah, I appreciated like everything that my grandparents did for me. I realized how hard my dad worked for me, how much like
Oh,
his dad had to kind of like be submissive to what were happening. His dad were a real like alpha male, and he says he had
mm.
to really like just let everyone else take control of everything. And then
A
like
big
now my
humility
mate's got
pill
a
to
son
swallow, isn't
that's
it? Yeah.
yeah, my mate's got a son now, and he's similar age. And I'm like, right, you just said, that's one of the things that you like one of the worst things, but something that you really, really appreciate, and it's like, it's molded you into the person that you are, and it's given you so many like good morals. I says,
Mm.
would you want that to happen to your son now? And he's like, no, not a chance. Like I went, yeah, but you just said how many good things it did for you. But it's like it's weird, isn't it? It's that we know that like through adversity, that's where like real growth is. Like everyone knows that. Like it's written on everything. But yeah, nobody will really want to subject anyone to that.
No. I think there are ways to artificially try and create that. So I'm nodding and smiling and trying not to interrupt you when you're talking because I had literally the exact same thing. When I was like 5, my dad had just started his bit. No, where was he? He was younger than that. But he'd just gone out on his own or something like that. Yeah, he'd worked for a firm for 10 years or something, and then he started his own. But anyway, a couple of months into his business, he broke his arm in a mixer, working by himself on a Sunday, not paying attention or whatever. And you've probably seen, you throw the shovel in. If you don't let go of it or it catches on the edge and it twists itself around and bang, snapped his arm. And he was off for a number of months. I mean, luckily then my mom had to go back to work, but it was that whole like, he was the breadwinner and we had to have those really difficult moments. And you're just sort of sat in the lounge listening to those conversations. And it was never screamy, shouty or anything like that. But it was just a case of, what the fuck are we going to do? Do you know what I mean? It's those really difficult situations. But yeah, trying to create that for your kids. I mean, you haven't got any children, have you yet?
No,
Not yet, not as
no.
they need them. But it's like, I try and create that artificially for my daughter and just humor me for a minute. I know you'll probably agree, but counter me if you think it's different. But like for my daughter, we've tried to create something like that in the fact that we've got horses and people will go, oh, wanky, you've got horses, living a different life to everybody else. It's not like that. We haven't got fields and fucking, they're not riding at Ascot or any of that shit. But one of the reasons I justified in my mind, because a horse is like a big, expensive dog. It just costs money and shit. But I was always thinking no until I had the justification in my head that I was like, she's going to, because I watched what my wife does with the horses. So she's going to be getting up every morning, 6 a.m., usually a little bit earlier, because she's got to get back 7:30 for school. She's going to go there, let the horses out, muck the horses out, and then fetch them back in. And I thought, you know what? That's some fucking character building stuff. Going out in the morning, picking up horse shit in a cold field, and then letting them out and dragging them back in. And I thought that is going to be a real character building thing. When she's 17, 18, 19 and going to uni or going to her first job or whatever she does, and people are like, oh, I've got to get up at 6 a.m. She'll be like, I've been fucking get up at 6 a.m. since I was 9. You know what I mean? I've been out in the cold shoveling horse shit. So I think there are ways to do it, but you're right. And whilst it's good, people aren't abused and cheap labor and stuff like that anymore. There was a real benefit to having crap jobs when you were a teenager.
Yeah, like you said, you can definitely like imitate it, but I just think like the real things just
I know.
that's why you see like top sporting athletes and you just everyone assumes that their children will automatically because they've got every opportunity you can imagine, but yet then don't quite make it or they fall short and you just go different in it, when it's like a boxer in it, like they've got that hunger on the way up and then once they're
Yeah.
there, it's like and I think it's like the same with everything. I just think when you've got to do it, when it's that like fight, you've got to do it. You've got to work hard for things, or you won't have anything. It just puts a different kind of perspective on it. But
So
yeah,
what changed different for
I
you
think
then?
it's
Because you obviously had some of them challenges growing up, but many people have challenges and still don't choose to go and do some of the crazy shit that you do. I mean, I remember reading a post from you. I was stalking you and glancing before we came on this morning. It was in around when was it? I think it was back in February 2019, and it said, "No matter how big or small, go climb your own mountain." And I thought, yeah, I like that because it's always that comparison is the thief of joy, and we see the stuff that Mark does, whether it's marathons or cycling up and down the UK or SAS or whatever it might be. Your mountain is relative to where you are and what you've achieved and what you've done in the past, but what is it about the stuff that's pushed you to do the things that you do? Obviously, you had a big life shift in 2018, but was this something that was already part of you?
no, definitely. I think I definitely believe that like growing up, I had a bit of a like imposter syndrome, kind of like inferior part of me, where I think because I grew up from a very like working class family. I always struggled around people that were kind of middle class.
Okay.
Just felt like I didn't fit in, like I didn't belong, or like I wasn't, as also couldn't sit on their level. I couldn't speak to them, and that was just
Why?
like my own shit kind of stuff. Like my
Mm.
own um, like brain doing that to me. But then I think that then spreads further where like I can remember like doing my GCSEs and I've just thought, well, I'll never need GCSEs in any job that I'll do because I'll never do anything. And like I
Really?
really had that mindset, yeah. And then it was only really when I started like when we were like 17, 18, we started getting into gym and like how it was back then, it was like really just lift as much weight as you could and that were
Yeah.
it kind of
You
thing.
didn't
No
seem to go
real,
too down that rabbit hole. I mean, you're in great shape, and from what I can tell,
yeah.
going all the way back, you've always been in fairly good shape. But you didn't swallow the farm. if you know what I mean. I went right off the
No,
fucking deep end and paid the price for it. But
yeah. Well, again, that kind of came from a little bit of an awakening. It's like similar where I was spending, 5, 6, 7 days a week in a gym lifting weights, and then I like in the process of joining the military, and I
mm,
can remember just thinking, oh God, like I might not be fit enough. And I just thought, hold on a minute, you spend 7, 8 hours a week in a gym, and then you're worried that you're not going to be fit to do something. You're like, I need to relook at what I'm doing because what I'm doing isn't actual fitness.
yeah,
Because if I'm in the gym every single day training, and then I'm worried about doing a basic level fitness test, then you go, well, you need to reevaluate what you're doing because what you're doing isn't actual fitness. I'm
mm.
not saying it's right or wrong and that nobody should do that, but I think
It's
for
even
me,
as
I just
simple as
thought,
smart
well,
goals, isn't it? It's specificity. So
yeah,
a lot of people, when I fell foul of this, for the first early years, it was just mantelpiece muscles. I wanted to have the way I looked needed to be a certain way. And it wasn't until later till I started looking at what can my body actually do. Because when I was in my like 15, 16, I was, cross country, all schools and all that sort of stuff and playing rugby. And I was UK ice hockey and roller hockey teams. But then when I went into gyms, I kind of lost the concept of what can my body actually be used for versus kind of just make it as big and strong as it possibly can, and it doesn't actually serve a purpose though.
no, no, but then I guess it's whatever floats your boat in it, whatever, like, I think there's always going to be an element that we do it for aesthetic reasons. And I don't think that's a wrong thing to do
No.
because that makes you more confident. If the way you look, if you feel better about yourself, it's all linked in.
Mm.
But yeah, I think I just went more towards the functional side of fitness. Is that whatever I was doing, I wanted it to be like transferable, where I could use it to like to actually function and do things. And then I almost kind of got a bit of a kick out of the fact that people didn't expect you to be as fit as what you were. They
Yeah.
expected you to be relatively fit, but then you're like a muscly guy, so it's like, yeah, you're just going to be strong.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I
yeah.
quite liked the side where you kind of, you went about your business, and then it kind of shocked them when they realized that you were actually fit as well, not just strong, and then that you actually did then carry the strength as well, which then I
Yeah.
think blew the mind even more.
I had
And I
that with
still I
the
still get a
firefighter
bit of a
challenge
kick
stuff.
out of that now.
When I do the British firefighter challenge stuff, I think I've won about 5 golds with the international stuff.
Oh,
And
mate,
I
you're a
always say to
beast.
people, I'm like,
You
no, but I'm like,
literally
I should
handed.
never win this. I always say to people, and it's almost like a bit harsh on them. I'm like, you should fucking beat me every day. I'm 18 stone for God's sake. I mean, in my person, and I'd love to hear what you think, but like, what do you think is that? I know it's hard to say, but what's the ideal weight for, let's say, a male firefighter? I think it's like 12, 13 stone. I think that's an optimum. Like, how heavy are you now?
I'm probably around, yeah, around 12 and a half, 13, kind of flutter
Okay.
around that kind of weight. But then I think it's dependent on you, right, mate. You're just a unit. I think regardless of what you did, you're what you 6'4", 6'3".
6'5", yeah, about 80. I
Yeah,
used to be
so that's
24
what I mean.
stone.
It's like
I don't think
you
I'll ever
being
get lighter.
ill.
That's the problem.
I don't think there's any need. I think I honestly think that like science will sort that out. Like if you get yourself fit and you know your own body and what it can do and how far you can push it
Hmm.
and when to ease off and when to eat and when to hydrate, then science sorts all the other stuff out. Like you'll
Hmm.
not, I honestly couldn't even tell you the last time I weighed myself because I have literally barely any interest in it. I think if I weighed myself and I like suddenly 3 stone heavier, then I'd be a bit concerned, or 3 stone lighter. But
But you'd have
I just
seen that
think, you know
before it
what?
happened. You know what I mean? You that just
Yeah,
glance.
yeah,
And some people think, oh, it's not about what's in the mirror. No, but it's just one visual indicator. How much you're lifting,
yeah.
your 10K time, where you look, how much you weigh, whatever it might be. These are all fine. They're all little indicators. They're all performance indicators to and also how you feel, because we know plenty of people that look amazing but feel horrific. So there's a balance there as well.
I definitely feel like knowing your own body and knowing like you said, seeing them indicators, but like kind of like you said, you'd never put 3 stone on because I know my body well enough that I'd know when I were like I probably know if I were like even like half a stone heavier.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'd know instantly. I just know how we're performing and the
Mm.
things I were doing. And I do feel like, and I think it's like a generational thing. We're all mad into facts and figures now, and I think people can tell you everything about everything.
Yeah.
And like
You can get
same with
stuck in
running.
the
Some of
minutia though, can't you? You can the
yeah,
old paralysis of
yeah,
analysis. You check in your Whoop watch and your data and your thing and
yeah.
the color of your piss and whatever, and you're like, well, hang on a minute. Well, how do you feel just in yourself? You know?
And it all gets away from what it's really about. And what it's really about is just hard work, like
Yeah.
training, hard work, everything. If you want to progress at anything, that's it's just the dedication to hard work and training. Like you mean you can't turn up at a marathon and done no training and expect to pull like a miracle out your ass. Like you just
Yeah.
can't. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It isn't going to happen. But if you've trained and you know you can run that distance and you know you've on the lead up to it, you've done the right things and you know how your body feels, then you're good. But someone else could tell you every inch of a training plan for running a marathon, but yet they've not put the hard work in.
Yeah.
And I feel like now more than ever, it's like it's a distraction from actually doing the hard work, the bit that's actually hard. Like
Yeah.
getting
The
out here,
boring
getting
shit.
sweaty, getting cold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The boring stuff. So let's go. Let's
yeah,
talk about hard work, and I want to overlay the framework of hard work over the last challenge that you've just done. So you've just done fastest marathon, fire kit, and SCBA. But when we were talking about that, I think it's so easy to focus in on the physical aspect of that. But you kind of alluded to it earlier. I think that one of the reasons, irrespective of how physically hard it is, one of the reasons people wouldn't want to do something like this, it must have been a logistical fucking nightmare as well. I know you briefly spoke about it, but that's also the boring hard bit that if you
yeah.
don't do that bit, you can turn up with all the will in the world, but it's going to take you another 70% of effort if you try to do that. And it
Yeah.
probably likely wouldn't just not have happened. So talk to us a little bit about maybe the prep for that, the physical aspect, and then the
Yeah.
logistical
Well,
nightmare.
kind of. So how it came about, it were all kind of literally. I kind of stumbled into it by accident. So I got a place again in London Marathon, like luckily. And last year I've not really ran many road marathons.
Okay.
So last year it was first time I did Manchester and I did London. And then when I got a place the second time in London, I thought, well, I want to do it for charity or for firefighters charity. I just thought it's a bit of a waste of a place if I just go and run around the road again and try and beat my time by 1 minute or 30 seconds or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and so I thought, oh, I'll do something a bit different. And I started looking into it. I thought, could do it in fire kit. So then you know what you do, you start looking and going, oh, I wonder what fastest time in fire kit is. Then
What was the fastest time before you did it?
so the fastest time in just fire kit, I think it's 3 hours 40. And then the fastest time in fire kit BA. So nobody's ever completed the marathon. People have done the half. The
Mm,
half war stood at 3:21, 3:22 around that time. A few people had attempted the full marathon, but Guinness World Record had set a cut off for 7 hours. And I think the closest someone's got was just over 8 hours. So yeah, so then I just thought, oh, I'll do it in fire kit. So I applied you sent your application into Guinness World Records, and they responded and said, yeah, cool, you can do it. And my idea at first was I'll just carry a BA set and run with that, and it's
yeah.
absolutely sound. And they were like, yeah, yeah, if you want us to recognize it as a record, you have to actually physically wear the breathing apparatus and change the cylinders. And straight away, I just went, well, that's not going to happen because what a nightmare that'd be to change a set every.
Just sorry for anyone that's never
Don't
done
even.
it. How hard is it? Because I had an idea for a Guinness World Record thing. It does take them. They don't guarantee to get back to you within like 3 months or something.
No,
It can take.
yeah,
How far back were you thinking about this?
oh, mate. Well, luckily for me, again, I think it was just chance more than anything. So probably about 4 weeks ago that I actually sent in the
What?
application. Yeah.
Fucking hell, you were
Um,
lucky to get them back and get them
oh,
organized because you do have to they send you a
yeah,
whole list of you must do this
yeah,
and it must be this and it must be
yeah.
recorded, it must be timed, and
And
you,
you have
you
to,
can get it
yeah.
wrong easily.
Oh, yeah. You have to send. I had to send in like photos before, like of what I'd be wearing for them to approve it.
Hmm.
And then I was like, right, so I need to know if I can actually run with a bit. I pretty much knew that I got the strength to run and carry something. So then I went down to work and I thought I'll chuck a BA set on, and I'll run on treadmill. So I think I managed like I was getting like 2.5, 2.6 miles out of a cylinder. But that was like literally I was like sucking the air out the cylinder.
I mean,
Yeah,
I know
and
you've
but
got a
then
high level of fitness anyway, but that's pretty. I thought it'd be less. I was. We'll get onto it, but sorry, please carry on.
so then like I said, it all kind of it were all very much we didn't really know what were going to happen. It just went very, very well on the day. So I just kind of said, right, I can do 2.5, 2.6 miles. So every 2 miles, I need to change a cylinder because then it gives a little bit of a window. So then I thought, oh, the furthest I ran with a BA set prior to the marathon was I did two cylinders, so I did like 5 miles.
Yeah.
And stupidly, this was probably like 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 days before the marathon. And I
Okay.
didn't, yeah, I didn't put my kit on. I just thought, oh, I'll just do it in shorts and t-shirt. I'll be fine with my kit on the day. There's no point, like really, like you know,
Yeah.
dehydrating myself for no
Did you
reason.
not ever think about any
So
of
I
the
did it with just
chafage
a
and stuff though? Because like Charlie
well,
Thompson, a friend of mine, did the 20. I just went up the Ben Nevis with him, and he did the furthest distance in 24 hours in fire kit. His feet, mate, he's still got scars all over his chest from like rubbing all of his skin off. And but sorry, yeah. So how did that factor into it?
like 4 or 5 days before, I thought I'll try and do two cylinders and see what happens. So I did it with just a t-shirt on, and it rubbed me back to pieces. Like, I had all these
Yeah.
sores on my back and on my shoulders and my lower back.
Yeah.
Um, so then I just kind of left it. Then up, I had like 4 or 5 days to try and let them like heal and recover. And then on the Sunday, we like I taped myself up as much as I could. I
Gonna
got
say,
some
yeah,
lads to tape me up, but luckily because it had rubbed, we knew exactly where to tape.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we literally just hammered it. We got one of the lads to literally hammer like rock tape and padding on my shoulders and bits and bobs, but on all these places that we could see where
Mm.
it was, where it would touch me. And honestly, Pete, like this is nowhere to lie. I didn't have a single mark on the end of it.
Fucking hell,
Didn't have
mate.
a
That was
blister. Didn't
lucky.
have a
That could have gone a whole different
yeah,
way.
yeah. Oh mate, and
I thought I'd
every
see blood
like I
dripping
said
off
it's
you at 18 miles or something.
yeah, yeah, and I said it to lads after I went. Anyone who would look at what we've done will generally think we knew what we were doing. You know what I mean? We literally winged it, mate. Even on the morning, we were still like going, like we are still sorting out kind of how I was going to see people on the route and stuff like that. Because it's like I'm not sure if you've been to London Marathon. It
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
crazy. It's one of the best like
Thousands and
events I
thousands
think
of
you could go
people.
to. But yeah, we absolutely winged the crap out of it, and it just worked.
What boots did you
Um,
wear?
I wore some like I didn't have to wear the like fire wellies.
Yeah,
I could
yeah,
just wear like workwear boots, so they're like
yeah,
the Altberg style boots,
yeah.
um, which
They're
you still
still a bit
wouldn't you
clunky
wouldn't
though.
choose. Yeah, massively. Like you wouldn't choose to run in them, but I think I just kind of treated it a bit like the military, kind of like just yomping, just
Yeah.
yeah. And I think just maybe just the battering that my feet have had over the years, they are. I don't overly suffer with blisters and stuff as much anymore as what I did maybe a few years ago. But yeah, we're really wet in the morning as well, so I'm quite worried about that on the day. But like I said, I don't know. I don't know if it's some things. I just think what it was just meant to be. It was just so everything fell into place. Like even so, we had 12 people out on the course on the day at
Hmm.
various points,
I was going to
and
say, how many cylinders did you do? Because I thought you'd have needed at least 10, but I'd have thought you'd have got slower towards the end, so maybe more.
yeah, well, I had to change a cylinder at 26, so it's 26.2 miles. I had to change a cylinder at like 26.1.
Did
So the reason
you
were
ever
quite
think
funny
like
because I,
you'd be sucking it and then be like, shit, I'm, because you don't want to. How worried were you about not adhering to Guinness's thing by having to stop literally like 500 meters short because it stuck to your
oh,
face?
yeah, so that's literally what happened in the last like 200 meters. So that was the lowest that I got. Every time I kind of had like 50, 60 bar, which were a massive, massive like buffer. I were like, once, but it were like the unknown. I was good up until like 6 miles. Then you're kind of going, I don't really know what's going to happen now. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm going to start breathing really heavy. Like, I was
Yeah.
just kind of picturing and going, well, when I run, I don't ever feel like if I'm setting a pace, I don't feel like I ever really overexert like breathing. So I just kind of
Yeah.
went with that and thought, well, surely if as long as I keep my heart rate down and keep an eye on that. So we kind of set it at saying if I run 10-minute miles, it's very, very comfortable. So we kind of sat around that. I did get excited probably for first
Did you do
six
10-minute
miles.
miles in the kit?
Yeah.
I think that's fucking quick in kit. I'd usually do
Yeah.
10
Oh
minute
yeah.
miles normally.
Yeah. Well, we I ended up doing so it averaged out over the entire event as 10-minute miles.
Wow.
Um, and that was factoring in, I think, so my moving time was 4 hours, and we had 40 minutes of actually changing cylinders and obviously the later on in the race, I was starting to. I'd have like a couple of minutes and have a rest, and then I'd get up and go again. But yeah, like I think the running side of it, it just went really well. Like as in, really stuck quite rigidly to a pace, and it was achievable. And it definitely got harder. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
towards the end, now we were probably a 5 6 mile of what were really dark a dark place to be. Um,
Because you've also got a
but
bit of that
you know,
sensory deprivation as well. Because I mean, for
yeah,
anybody that's never worn SCBO, not part of the emergency services, you do have a lot of people listening like that. Just give them an understanding of, it is a positive pressure set, but it is still labored. What
yeah,
sets do you use?
we use Draeger, but
Did
it's
you?
weird because
Because Draeger sets are a
yeah,
bit more of a ball ache changing cylinders. Into Spyro are really
well,
quick.
we actually were lucky and we got 14 sets, complete sets.
Oh,
So we
good.
basically just
Okay.
dropped the entire set.
I was going to
Um,
say that'd be a ball ache.
yeah, the to actually change the cylinders, we like yeah, it took a
Good
lot
fat.
longer. So they're just dropping the set and getting the fresh set. But yeah, wearing the mask, I'm probably saying to you, I'm relatively comfortable wearing a BA set in a job or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know in your head, you're like, well, I'm in clean air, so there's not even the risk
Yeah.
that if something's going wrong, I can literally just whip my mask off and it's absolutely fine. And I can remember being at like mile 10 and just thinking, this feels very claustrophobic in this mask. Like it was raining, it was steaming up, I was constantly wiping it.
Yeah.
It's like
Did you
really
run into
sweaty
anybody?
inside at this. Yeah, and I can be like, I was having like this, this internal dialogue where I was like thinking, Mark, what are you on about? Like I was thinking, am I having will I have a panic attack at like mile 12? Will
Yeah.
this happen? Will that happen? You're like, you have to get to a point where you just go, mate, just stop it. Like stop whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying
Yeah.
to do to yourself. Just stop it. And what will be will be. If you get to mile 12 and have a panic attack, then you'll have a panic attack. Or if you get to mile 20 and you have to rip your set off because you just can't stand wearing it, then that's what you'll do. But until then, there's no point worrying about it.
Did you wear your own helmet? Silly, I know it's a silly question, but I wore a brand new
Yeah,
helmet when I did the half, and the back of it rubbed my head like a bastard.
yeah.
And I didn't know if the spider
Well,
strap would be a bit of an issue on your head.
no, I wore my own helmet. I did the next day. It felt like the back of my head were like bruised.
Yeah.
But I think the mask helped. It just kind of wedged my helmet onto it.
Yeah.
So my helmet wasn't, apart from at the back, it wasn't really touching my head. Um, but I did the day after. I felt like I've been run over. Like it wasn't like DOMs from running or all like that. It felt like someone had beaten me up, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
It's a lots of
Just
different
from
muscles that you're using, isn't it? As much as people know running is running.
yeah,
Yeah, but your biomechanics would have been different because of the way that sat on your back
yeah,
and how that would have
yeah.
pivoted your hips a little bit differently. There would have been a lot of
Definitely
different
later
muscles
on,
you haven't used.
yeah, later on in the race, that was like one of the main things were just the weight. Like you could just feel it on your joints, like running, like with a weight on your back. But no, I think it's like anything. Like the minute I've done something and finished it, I'm not sure if you're the same, but I kind of go like it could be as hideous as you could ever imagine. Then I kind of finish and go, it wasn't actually that bad. It were all right.
Did I
It were
die?
fine.
No, I didn't fucking
Yeah,
die. So,
exactly.
I'm,
Yeah,
I'm
don't
fine.
even fit. Yeah, and like fitness wise, I were more than confident. That I could run it. I could run that
Yeah.
distance. There were a few unknowns where you go, I don't know how I'll feel about this, or I don't know if like you're kind of sitting there going, well, my knee might give in, or something. What you
Yeah.
just don't know what will happen. And like I
It's
said,
the
I think
silly
there were a
shit that
massive
scares
element.
me, like tripping off a curb or something, like what happened to me on that show. You just step back and twist in the wrong way,
Yeah,
and that's all it's got to take. And then a silly little thing happens, and you're like, something
yeah,
pops. That's my fear.
yeah.
It's not almost the predictable things. It's the what ifs. It's the stupid little thing that might happen.
And I imagine, like, luckily, touch wood, I've not had any real bad injuries,
No,
just like niggles. And I think the minute I can imagine that the minute you have had a big injury, it's like it's there in it. Like you know that recovery process, so you don't want it to happen again. And
you try not to get
um,
scared as well, because
yeah,
I've prolapsed disc in my back, lifting 350 kilo deadlifts. I've tore my entire pec off, benching way too much weight. I've now snapped my patellar tendon. I've tore my rotator cuff on my left shoulder before. And it does, I'll be honest, it does make you a little bit gun shy when people go, hey, you want to go like I will never arm wrestle anybody in again in my life. I've just no interest in it. I've nothing to gain from it, and I'm just conscious that I will injure myself for nothing. I'm happy to do things like what you've done, which is a controlled atmosphere that it's me versus me. But like I wanted to start jiu-jitsu a few months ago, but I'm just nervous about it, like
Oh,
popping
mate.
or snapping something and the effect that would have on the rest of the things I enjoy.
Well, that's the big thing for me. There's a few lads who I work with that are big into jiu-jitsu, and you know what I mean. I really like the concept of it. I really like the idea of it. I really like what it stands for, and
Yeah.
like the discipline of it. I think it's very very good. But yeah, I just think someone trying to pull my head off wouldn't like go well towards running. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I just
And when they're
yeah,
all
or
honest, they've
someone.
all got an issue with their back or their neck or their shoulders,
It's,
this. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I want to keep doing shit till I'm 70. I don't want to, have to not be able to walk then or, have to have injections in my spine.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Like that's how I've kind of always looked at things. Is like, and especially when I think when you start doing more challenges, it gets darker and more messed up. The more people constantly send me stuff, and I just think, why on earth? Like, have you seen the one with running in the tunnel, like 100 miles in a tunnel? Like
Yeah.
it's a pitch black tunnel. The tunnel is a mile long, so you run a mile there and back, and do that constantly for I think it's for like 100 miles or something like that, or 100 odd miles. You're not allowed to run outside or anyone. You're not allowed to listen to music. Like I said, it's in
Yeah.
complete darkness, and you're just like, that just sounds like not a lot. Like I love running, I love challenging myself, but the main reason I run is because I love being outdoors.
Mm.
I think that's like the true passion is like just it's like traveling and being outdoors. Like that's the real thing what I love. And
You've done some incredible
yeah,
stuff. Some of the really tropical places that you've been. So you ran some beautiful
yeah.
ultras.
Oh man, I've been like insanely lucky with some opportunities that I've had and some of the places I've been able to run. And yeah, that's like the passion for me. It's like it's exploring new places and like the Land's End John O'Groats. I imagine I'll say it forever. It's like the easily the best thing I've ever done. The
Yeah.
best thing, like absolutely loved it. And it wasn't, you know what I mean? We were going out on his bikes every day, and there were times where if you wanted to push hard and
Yeah.
be a bit daft, you could go and do it and get your rocks off that way. But it was like the adventure every day, getting up and like moving somewhere and traveling and like measuring how far you'd been and how far you'd traveled up a country and then being able to see it. That was like the real like kick for me. I just love that bit.
Yeah.
It was like a real adventure.
Hmm. I mean, take us back for a second because I love that we've gone down a rabbit hole there, but I feel like we've skipped over the fact you joined the military first. So why did you first want to join the military, and then what was the transition to choose to do something different?
So for me, like I am one of them saddos that it's like from day dot I want to be a firefighter. I watch Fireman Sam and like that were it. Like I want to
Yeah.
be a firefighter. Unfortunately, I applied when I was like 18, but we were bang in the middle of you know the um big recruitment alt nationally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're like a 7 year old where they just didn't recruit,
Hmm.
and I was like bang in the middle of that. So one of my friends, he were in the Navy, and he was like, "Oh, you should join the Navy. They've got firefighters in Navy." So I literally went straight to careers office. Want to join the Navy? I want to be a firefighter. And the guy just looked at me and went, "Yeah, there's no firefighters in Navy, mate. Like they're in RAF," and pointed me to like the next table. And he's like, "You need to go and speak to them over there." So I literally went straight over to that. Want to join RAF? Want to be a firefighter? Right? Yeah, sign here. Do all these tests. Yeah, and then so that was the real purpose. Is that I didn't again intentionally go with that I wanted to be in military. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad that I did.
Hmm.
But yeah, we're always to join fire service, and I kind of looked at it like a stepping stone.
Right.
And I think if I wasn't, in the career that I am now or on the path that I'm on now, I could probably look back at my career in the military as totally different. Whereas I really, really respect that time, and I'm so grateful for that time because it got me to where I did plan to be, and which were to be an all-time firefighter. Um,
Is there
and
additional
yeah, so that
disciplines that you pick up in something like the RAF though? Because I know a few people that have come from the military to the emergency services. And the way that we train people now in the emergency services and certain services has changed a little bit. Sometimes it's become a little bit less militant, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But I'm quite romantic in the aspects of self-discipline, personal accountability, just squaring away your personal admin. And I hold that in quite a high personal regard. And I don't want to lose that. And I do see that a lot of people that come from different careers previously, because sometimes not be a little bit better, but maybe just hold that in higher esteem. So what was the training like for you in the RAF versus when you transitioned over?
So, like, for me, when I was going through basic training in RAF, like, probably the first time really in my life that I felt like I really like flourished and belonged somewhere, and I really fit into that. The first time I felt like I was really getting praised for things, like, which sounds a bit naff, but yeah, I felt like up until that moment, it's like when I got there, it was like as if I was doing things like making my bed, and I'd get praised for making my bed because I made it so well. So then it make it even better. I wouldn't sleep in my bed; I'd sleep on floor. So I didn't crease my bed, and then like your kit had to be pristine, and they were just like, you know what I mean? Nobody were really asking anything either that were like academic or all like that. It was just like, you just had to be present. You had to present yourself really well, and then the physical side of it in the military. Again, I just kind of I were very, very good at just following orders. And if someone said run, I'd go and do it, and I'd
Yeah.
do it. I'd do it full on, and I'd want to beat every single person, and I want to be the first one back, and I'd want to, you know, I'd want to be like uber professional, and I want to get that praise then from these instructors that you look at and you just think they are gods, and then the minute you come away, like equivalent to like a crew manager or whatever,
Yeah,
and you just think
yeah, yeah.
that these people at the time, it's like training school, isn't it? Where you've got these crew and watch managers, and they are literally like, you hold them with such high regard. But yeah,
I'm the
that's
same, and
kind
that's
of
what I thought when I first joined. I looked at people, and it was always my goal. So I'm a watch commander in our training development department now, and I look at it and I think this is something that I've wanted to do and be part of since the day I joined. But I also hold it with a tremendous amount of responsibility, and that's why I personally feel like I have some of those challenges where I'm like, but I still want some people to be romantic about the exact things that you've articulated so well there. So I suppose one of my questions to you is like, how do you think we can create those environments similar to what we were talking about with kids earlier? Like, how can we create those environments without looking like we are being super dictatorial or being shouty? Because I don't think it's all just about shouting and screaming and discipline, but how do you embed those values into, how do we create another Mark? I know you probably won't think you're anything, but like, how do we create another Mark Peart? How do we, male or female, whatever it might be, how do we get those standards? If someone's coming in from wherever, they've worked at ASDA and they're like, I want to be a firefighter, that's great. And I'm sure there's some great people that work at ASDA, but they may not have that same conditioning that you had.
yeah, and like I definitely agree that it's not the military, and people are different now. Like people are, and I think generationally, it's like we have changed,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still a massive believer in that we still have to set them standards. We still have to, we're so scared of hurting someone or so scared of upsetting someone. And there's a definite place for it because, we'll have both seen it where there was always an element of bullying that went off within your training,
Yeah.
because, but
Yeah.
then that almost molded you as well. It's so hard in it to
Mm-hmm.
put your actual finger on it. But I still feel like we need to beast recruits. Like I still feel like that, and it's
Yeah.
not bullying them. It's like we need to set that like that level of expectation of what we want from them,
Mm-hmm.
and put them standards there from day dot, and almost like them recruits to me should be like, you are God to them, and they should, the best thing that they can get from you is you saying well done to them.
Mm.
Is like,
Yeah.
that's the best thing they can get from you is.
Yeah. And that's difficult for me when instructors want to be best friends with people. I always talk about the
Yeah.
switch. When we're in the classroom, yeah, it's first name basis if you want it to be, and you can ask me questions, you can ask absolutely anything. It's more of a democracy. We can discuss things. But then when we step out there, when you put your PPE on, when we step onto the training ground, it's that switch. It's not a conversation. I will tell you to do things I expect you to do. I'm going to point at you. I'm going to use different words. The volume is going to change. The intensity is going to change. Because if I don't do that to you, it'll be a disservice. because you'll get hit by that tidal wave of stress and anxiety and command presence when you then go out there on the fire station, and they'll be like, and I would be like, I was like that when I was on station. What do you mean? Didn't you go through any of this at station? Of course I'm going to shout at you. We're on the fucking incident ground. I need you to go over there and create a cordon. I need you to go and shout at the public and get them back. I need you to have that assertiveness.
I think there's a massive difference between setting them standards and setting them disciplines and just screaming and shouting at people. Do you know, I do feel like there needs to be less as just scream. Like people don't react to getting screamed at. It's like it does the opposite. It makes people go into a shell and people avoid. And I've done it where, I've avoided doing certain things as a recruit or as a probationary firefighter because you just don't want to let anyone down. You don't want to let yourself down. Then you shy away from learning that bit. And I think the minute that you need to create an environment where people are confident enough to stand up and go, I don't understand this bit, or I don't understand that, or I haven't fully grasped that bit. And it's an hard environment, I think, to create while still keeping that really high discipline there as well. And everyone is different. Like there's plenty of people in our training school that they're very, very good instructors, very good teachers, and they're very, very friendly with everyone. And you just think everyone's different, aren't they? And everyone, but I think it's just, I'm similar to you, where my experience is the people that got the best from me were the ones that they had a certain way of kind of, demanding respect. And then they gave it when you earned it from them. Yeah. And you almost you wanted it from them. You wanted so badly to please them and to get that respect from them, and that meant the most to you. And I still think that for me personally, I think that creates amazing firefighters. That kind of instruction and that kind of training and that kind of environment.
But despite that, you do have a high level of approachability. You're good at building rapport with people. You're not softly spoken, but you've got that raw likability about. Have you ever considered going in the training department yourself? Just as a little tickle. You'd be great at it, mate. I think you'd be great. And I think, again, people would really look up to you.
You know what, Pete? I think if we had a constant influx of recruits, I'd be there tomorrow. Honestly, and I imagine you're going to say exactly the same to me. I'd love to work with recruits. As in straight from Asda, straight from anywhere.
That's what I do now. So for all the whole time in the on-call, I have all of them going through their apprenticeships and I manage them in their core skills and then through their BA and stuff. Yeah. So you get them from nothing and everyone's, bumbling around and you're trying to create that. You're trying to shave all the fat off it and bring them all into line and get those triggers, get those disciplines, just parading off and just all of those bits. I love it.
Yeah. And mate, and I'd be exactly the same as you. I think I'd really get off on them little things, just seeing them line up and be from day one to a few weeks later where they're on it. And I'd really get a kick off that. But unfortunately, obviously we've recruited a lot over the last couple of years. And maybe I should have pushed myself forward a little bit more. But for the time being, I'm really, really happy being on a fire engine. And that's where I want to be. And I really, really do believe at some point in my career, I'll definitely consider training school if it is an option for me. But yeah, I think personally, I've just started doing temporary. We still call them watch managers, but temporary watch commander. I've actually got my interview in 2 days, mate.
Nice. And, what for a substantive?
Oh, mate. Yeah, so we've changed the process of it this time around. And I think it's definitely for the better. So ours used to be all in one day. So you'd go in, you wouldn't really know which element of the process would be happening, but we had a practical element and then an interview and then role play and a presentation. And this year round they've done it slightly different so I did my practical element about a month ago, and then I moved on to the interview element.
Is that like a JRT or is it a drill ground scenario? Do you have to manage a training session or what do you have to do for yours?
Yeah, so it's a drill ground scenario.
Yeah. Reading them off, words of command, detailing the drill, making sure, pointing out things, coaching them, keeping them moving, all that sort of shit.
Yeah, and they're trying to make it as realistic as possible. They've definitely gone away from, I don't know if it was the same down where you are, but we were very much, you turn up and you'd have an aeroplane's crashed into some nitrous salt baths and, there's
shark infested
basement with some ammunition in and you're what on earth is that? Whereas now it's a lot more realistic. There still is them curves in like a few curveballs or like a few things to get you thinking, but it's more to get you to react to what's happening and to see whether you pick up on information and to see whether
Mm.
you do actually use that situational awareness to gather that stuff. But yeah, it's well, to be honest with you, mate, your podcast I feel has helped me a lot. I've been cherry picking certain episodes,
Mm.
especially to do with like the culture and the ED&I and bits and bobs like that, which
There's some
I
great
found it.
ambassadors out there, some great subject matter
Yeah, and
experts,
it and it's and I think for anyone that's either joining fire service or looking at progression, I definitely feel like your podcast, there's a lot there, and it's a different way of learning, than just writing and reading and like it's like I've had your podcast on and I'm just potting around house, walking dog, going for a run, and
It's
I've
the
like
thing I
I've just
wish
been
I had because I used to have great
yeah,
conversations, and you will have, whether it's RAF or on station, you've had a great conversation with somebody, and you're like, God, I wish I could bottle that and be able to listen to it a few times because that person said some really
yeah,
interesting stuff that I could do with really embedding. But it was all manuals and like debrief documents and
yeah.
shit when I was younger. I got there, but it would have been a lot easier if I could have just listened to it.
Yeah, and it's a lot because the like more open conversations rather than like reciting information.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I personally find it easier to like listen to, and you're like almost involved in that conversation
You're the
to a
fly on the
degree.
wall.
Whereas
Yeah, that's it.
yeah,
You're
whereas I've
listening in,
I've
you're
I've
part of
been
it.
listening to you speaking to different people, and I've almost been there speaking to dogs, saying my
Chipping in.
my like part of it, and do you know, and I just think it's
Let,
such a
us
good
go
thing,
there.
mate, what you're
Let's go
doing.
there with that. So, as a crew commander, as a temporary watch manager, how do you create your teamwork? How do you create great rapport? What do you think works well for you? Because you've got your own style. We talk about flexing styles. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're very approachable, but you've clearly got those high standards. So, when people aren't there, or when you got a new probationer, you got somebody covering, or something like that, what's culture like on your watch, on your station? How do you, imbue that in other people?
So I think I definitely just think it's like how you present yourself and what you allow people to do and say.
Mm,
Like I think the minute that you start letting people get away with things that you don't 100% buy into, then
yeah,
you're almost promoting that as well.
yeah.
So I think you have to really set your stall, but not like come in there and be like, right, you
Yeah.
need to do
I was going
this,
to say,
this,
how
and
do you
this, and
do that?
I'm in
Because it's
charge.
not standing straight up and saying, right, in my office for
No,
a verbal. How do you, when you're
no.
on the watch table and the conversation strays and you've almost got, I always call it that gentle hand on the tiller. You've got to give that little character recalibration, but in a professional manner without being the dick. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes you need to be the dick, and that's okay. I'm happy to be the dick, but I'm hoping we never get there. If I ever have to have a policy in my hand talking to you, our relationship
Yeah.
has failed. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Then the system's failed, and I believe that as well. Like, I want the lads and lasses that are around me. If they don't come to me with a problem, then I feel like I need to look at how I'm working and why I'm not approachable, or why they feel the need to bypass me and go to someone else. And
Mm.
especially more so since I've took on like the watch manager role. Um, you definitely feel like they're your little like family that you're trying
Yeah,
to protect as much as
100%.
you can. And that will kind of the conversation. And Pete, by no means do I feel like I'm still learning, and I still feel
Oh,
like I'm
fuck yeah.
developing so much, and it's
Yeah.
been like rapid development as well. And I just want a big like period of consolidating. I think
Hmm.
after this process, I kind of go, well, that's me done for a big period of time because I want to be that watch manager that turns up and people go, oh, nice one,
A
Mark's here,
safe pair
or
of hands. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's all. That's I think if I can retire from this job and people, regardless of whether people think I'm a dick or whatever,
yeah.
but if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
go, but he was good at his job,
He was
like
good at
he
his
was a
job.
good
Yeah.
firefighter, then I think, well, then I'm happy, like kind of thing.
Talk
But
to me about
yeah,
your
I kind of
relationship
just
with your crew managers. Sorry, because that's also like a different thing as well, isn't it? Because
yeah,
they're your left hand and your right hand. You're all on the same team, but I always think if I have to step in, I'm happy to step in, but I would hate to step in because even just like the experienced firefighter, I'd like the locker room to calibrate
yeah,
itself. You know what I mean? We should all be those cultural calibrators, but also the standards calibrators. You know what I mean? I want people to be saying, I mean, let's get this sorted because the gaff has asked us to do X, Y, Z. I don't want to have to come out and the probation has done something they shouldn't have done, and no one else has mentioned anything. That's a failing of the system. And your crew managers sort of should be that go between where they're a bit closer to the team, maybe they're a bit more friendly with the team, and that's cool, but they've got to toe the line as well.
I honestly think everything just falls down to like communication. I feel like if you don't tell people what you expect from them, or then you can't really complain when it doesn't happen how you want it. As in and I feel like especially some of the senior firefighters, um, I think as much as we see them as being these, alpha bods that have been in job forever and they know everything and done everything, they still want that like pat on the back,
Yeah.
and they still want you to come up and go, look, I mean, you've got a lot to offer, and you should be with these probationary firefighters, and you should be imparting all that knowledge,
Mm.
you should be surrounding yourself with them, and
Yeah, validating
it
them, acknowledging them. You've got so
yeah,
much to add, mate. I need your hand. I need you on team
yeah,
because you've got so
yeah,
much to add, mate. You've been in this job longer than me. You know this stuff better than me. I mean, I've only come
yeah,
to this station a year ago. You're really on the
yeah,
subject matter. I'm happy to shake the heavy stick if I need to, but
yeah.
you can lead this drill. You lead that reference. I'm not going to micromanage you with it. You've got the experience.
I just try to have them conversations as early on as I can, and just
Mm.
like basically say, look, like I will literally protect you as much as I can from anything, whatever I can do to stop, to deflect anything from you, I will do it. But it works both ways.
Yeah,
Like you're lot after then, you have to toe the line, you have to do things, and you have to be proactive, and but I will not ask you to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself, and
100%.
and I think it's just having them like human conversations rather than trying to be robotic or this like this unbelievable like fucking David Brent manager
Bullshit.
kind of
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Where you feel like you've come in and it's like, oh, the reason I'm in charge of yours is because I'm superior, or I'm
Yeah.
amazing, or I'm
I'm the
this, I'm that.
savior
And
of
I
the
just can't.
fire service. Stand before
Yeah,
me and listen.
yeah.
You're welcome.
And I just kind of sit there and go, I've put myself forward to do this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The reason I'm here is because there's plenty of other people in the fire service that could easily do this role, or it's wrong that they're not doing this role, but they have chose that path. Like that's
Mm.
for them. I have chose to go down this path, and this is where we find ourselves. And it's like we all want an easy life. We all want to go into work and enjoy it. Like I don't want anyone coming to work and you know what I mean? If you've had them bad jobs, I've had them jobs where you wake up and you've got that in the pit of your stomach. You
Yeah.
just don't want to be there. You know what I mean? You just cannot wait to go home. You can't wait, and I just
Yeah.
don't want anyone to feel like that coming to work. And we know, what I mean, we're lucky where the job that we've got, there's no need to feel like that. And if
No.
you do feel like that, then you're in the wrong job.
My rule
Um,
is three in a row. You can have a bad job or a bad day or a bad interaction or a bad piece of news, and then maybe you'll be stirring about it the next day a little bit. But you shouldn't have 3 days in a row when you don't want to be there. That if
yeah,
if that's happening, something's gone wrong. Our inability to get rid of this feeling or the ability to pass it around amongst us or bounce it off each other to almost dilute it and deal with it, whether it's a frustration, whether it's someone's fell out with somebody else on the watch, whether it's a new piece of news about pay or whatever. We can't wallow in this shit for longer than 2 days. If you're coming in the third day and you don't want to be here, we need to have a real conversation. Not about like performance and capability, just about, dude, what's going on? Is everything okay? Because you're not your
yeah,
usual self. I know you're a great firefighter. I know you're a great person to have on the watch. You're a great part of the culture. And I'm not feeling that at the minute, and that, I feel like that's a relationship between us. It's not all you,
yeah.
there's something I'm not doing or we're not doing. What's going on? It shouldn't be three in a row.
And I think we have, like you spoke about earlier, about like if you're getting a policy out, then something's gone wrong. And I think we have become like dependent on being so
Yeah.
prescriptive with how we act with each other, and like
Yeah.
almost sucking away the human side of it, where you
Yeah.
go, but we are just people at work kind of thing. And we are just people, and we spend a lot of time together, and you spend more time with some of the people at work than you do with your nearest and dearest. And
Yeah.
for a lot of people, that's hard to imagine. I mean, there's not many roles where you're surrounded by 5, 6, 12 people
Mm.
all day, every day for 11, 12 hours, and
Sounds
you
harsh,
literally,
but I think of the policies like I think of national operational guidance. I'm like, national operational guidance is guidance. It's kind of like,
yeah,
here's a few options of things you might want to consider doing. But ultimately, when you arrive on the job, it's up to you. You'll manage the incident. And I'm like that at work. I'm like, the policies are guidance for me. Yeah, if the chief rocks up and you say something you're not supposed to say, I'm going to have to deal with it. And I'm going to have to deal with it. And I will deal with it. But day to day, it's guidance. And we're gonna blur the lines, and then we're going to try and make sure we stay back in them. At the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, we'll make sure we're back in the box. But we'll go
yeah,
all over the place because we're human. And the fire service almost attracts a bunch of quirky, weird freaks, and that's what makes the job great. It's
Oh,
great characters, isn't it? It's just fucking crazy
I,
people. That's what it's
yeah, I
about.
always say that. I'm like, literally, everyone is on the spectrum. Like
Mad as a box of
everyone.
frogs.
Yeah, everyone is nuts. And I think I'm the normal one. Then I look at the stuff I do and go, they almost look at me and go, he's off his head. But yeah, I sit there and go, you're a lot of mental, and I'm like the normal one, you
Yeah,
know.
I love them for it.
But
So
no, I think these the conversations and the communication is like massive. I think in my role it's like more so than ever. I think it's just like actually talking to people and getting people like to have that confidence in you and
yeah,
in coming to you and that you will, actively find a solution to whatever it is that they need and that you'll do it with their best interests. But then at the same time, you're not going to bend anything or you're not going
no,
to,
no, no.
you know,
Tell me about a problem
like
whilst I've got time to do something about it. Don't come to me after you've been worrying about it for 3 days. Because A, that's not good for you. And B, we may be past the point I can do anything about it. Tell me early. Doesn't matter what it is. It's okay. Just tell me as soon as you know. That's fine. Just tell me about it.
And even like some things that I just think, sometimes it takes as well you to go, you're a grown man, you're a grown woman. That problem, you can deal with that. Like
Yeah.
you know the solution to it.
Mm.
You're finding the easy route, which is to come to me and just offload all
Yes.
your
Yes.
stuff onto me and just go, can you sort this, this, and this, and this, and this? And you go, right, you can sort half them
Yeah.
things,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That's a
you're
you
you're
problem.
almost yeah, yeah. And I think so. I think that's and as like I was saying to you, it's all a massive learning curve for me, and I feel like I'm developing my style as it goes, and I imagine it'll change throughout the
100%.
rest of my career if this is where I stay. Like you learn from everyone, and you learn from the best and the worst in people, don't you?
Yeah, man. There's a surprise a day
And
waiting for you working with people. But
yeah,
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that your experiences or your profile or who you are is also maybe a slightly different angle, as it is for me, but to no by no means at the same stretch, just in a different way. You've obviously got a massive presence on social media, 42 something thousand followers. So you do other stuff. Some people choose to do electrician outside their job. Maybe they're a part-time teacher, but you spend your time promoting great stuff, being part of important charity events. How does that work as a different dynamic to what you do? Because it obviously changed gears a lot in sort of when you did the SAS stuff, 2018, 2019. How's that been for you and managing that? And I as much as people do listen to it, and I know people listen to it because I see it on their phones and then they tell me about it, I do still get a lot of shit. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, fucking hell, Pete's talking about the fucking podcast again. Or, he's talked about so and so. And you always get a bit of shit. And that's good and it's
yeah,
healthy. And you must get the
yeah,
same in a
mate.
different way.
It's the fire service, isn't it? It's like if people aren't giving you shit, then like it's like when people say, when you're a recruit, and it's like, well, if they're not wetting you, it means they don't like you, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Like as long as you're getting wet, you're fine. It
Yeah.
means they like you and stuff like that. So I think if they're not taking piss at you, then
Yeah.
they probably don't like you.
Yeah,
But
that's the
no,
truth.
to be honest with you, like again, I've been really, really lucky that what I mean. Everyone's been very, very supportive with a lot of things, and I guess that a lot of the things that I'm doing, majority of the people in the fire service have a common interest
Yeah.
to a degree.
Mm.
But no, like it's been very, very easy to have that going off at the same time.
Because it's not like you're doing
Like
a pyramid scheme trying to get people to buy, shampoo or
no,
some shit, is it? You're just
no,
doing cool stuff.
yeah, and I think if and it's like anything, generally the ones that try to set the piss, they're the ones that come up to you on the sly and go, "Oh, can I just ask you
Yeah.
about this? And what trainers should I wear? And what hydration pack do you have? And I was thinking about doing this." And I'll think you like think,
Yeah, yeah.
mate, you're like, I'm happy to help anyone with anything, and I'll try to give as much advice as I can. But yeah, you know what it's like, mate. You know
Mm.
what fire service is like. But yeah, I've been lucky
You say you've been lucky though, mate.
to
You've been willing to put yourself out there. You've been willing to do that sort of stuff. And
yeah.
people do. For every one message that you get, and I'm sure you get thousands of messages, but I always say, like, for every one person that messages the podcast or whatever, I'm like, there'll have been 100 people that thought about doing it and 1,000 people that saw the thing and liked it but didn't do anything about it. So for every one that you
Yeah.
get, and it's those messages, like the challenges that you went through it in 2018 and being so open about them, and then all the physical challenges that you've done since then. I mean, I've scrolled through this morning looking at your comments and looking through all the stuff. It's those ones that really that you really that you're doing it for them, but they're the ones that are making the difference for it, I suppose.
You definitely get a bit of a lift from that, and I think the kind of ripple effect to you doing things, I don't always appreciate it, but I feel like we what we just did last weekend, if that encourages 10 other people to go out and to do a fundraising for firefighters charity, and they all raise £1,000 each, then that's £10,000 that's going to our charity
Well, I
for us.
think you set a target for
So
500, didn't you? You're at like 6 grand now, so
yeah,
it's great.
yeah,
And it's
we've
still
done.
open, by the way, for anybody that want. We'll put the comment in the notes so people can see it. But
Yeah, thanks for that, mate. I appreciate that. But yeah, like it's done really well, and I just think the ripple effect that you don't always realize the effect you're having on people, and
mm,
you'll be saying with what you're doing. This has inspired me, this podcast, by listening to it, and yeah, I just don't think you always appreciate the ripple effects of
mm.
what you're doing, and what if it gets that person out that that wouldn't go for a run, or was scared to go for a run, or were thinking about going for a run, then it gets them to do something. Then you think, well, then job's done, isn't it?
What I also think though about yourself is that despite the fact you do all this, crazy shit and inspiring stuff, some people will look at that and go, "Yeah, but you don't know what my past has been like. Mark, it's been X, Y, Z, and A, B, C." And I'd be remiss. We can't assume that everybody kind of knows a little bit about your backstory. So if you're happy to go there, I'd love to just speak for a moment about Chelsea and your partner and the things that happened, because that's only like 5 years ago. And obviously
Yeah.
you do raising money for the Firefighters charity, and a lot of what they do is around mental health and well-being and stuff like that. So irrespective of how upbeat and how great you seem now and how self-aware you are in trying to develop yourself, take me through the beginning of that tunnel, if you will, when it did look like a tunnel, when it was just a fucking cave and you're heading into the darkness.
Yeah, so it's always kind of resorted back to like the job. And for me, I had 6 months, I was on like bereavement leave, and I was desperate to get back to work. Like I needed that support network from,
Yeah.
my friends and my colleagues. And yeah, for me personally, once I got back, like that's where I felt like, I started to get direction, started to get, you know, uh, like more, I don't know, more understanding of like how life we're going to move forward from that point.
Mm.
And I think it was a realization as well of like how many people we in the fire service like felt like they could come forward then to
Yeah.
speak to me, and like almost to some points where I've not particularly wanted it either, or felt like I wanted to know people's problems that much,
Yeah. Because it could be quite triggering for you as well, I would imagine. Because
Yeah, yeah,
one of my previous watch managers, I was with him at 6 a.m. in the morning. His son killed himself, unfortunately, and he had a lot of time off work. And then only about 6 months ago, a different firefighter in our service took his life. And when we heard that somebody had taken their life in the service, I was with somebody on a fire behavior day, and we kind of looked at each other, and we didn't know who it was. And like you are in the service, you go, "Oh, who do you think it is?" And quite sadly, we made a list of about 7 people that we thought it might be. And that in itself was worrying, that we could even sit there and think of 7 people that we were worried about that may have taken their life. The fact that we could even name any, after that, I thought, fucking hell. And then I did. I reached out to those people. I didn't say, "Is it you?" I just reached out and just said, "Hey, buddy, just thinking about you today. How's Trix? How's the missus? How's the kids? How's whatever?" And when you really think about it, if you heard that a close friend had taken their life, or how many people could you think about and think, "Oh, maybe it's them," and that'd be worrying.
I think it's a factor. Like it is for a lot of people, it is an illness, and it's
Mm,
like there's not a there's not all the things you could put in place wouldn't change the way they feel. Like it just wouldn't, and
yeah,
like that's again something that I've had to come to understand that in as much as we can function and go, yeah, but just get yourself out, or just get over it, or just man up, or just and
yeah,
like that attitude isn't what everyone else has got, and some people, like I said, it's an illness, and it's something they'll have to deal with and live with for the rest of their lives. And for me, that's why for us, like the charity is so important.
mm.
Like I'm not sure if you've ever used like either Arkham House or Penrith, but like
I used it twice for
unbelievable
my knee.
facilities.
Yeah, I used it for my
Yeah,
chest for that rehab, and then for my knee. And I've worked with them on a few mental health pieces and trying to help them. But I don't think as many, especially now. You were saying about how much recruitment has gone on in the last 3 years. I think it's so important on what you're doing just to raise that awareness that it's even there. Because some people don't even
Yeah.
know that they're there or what they do.
Sorry, mate.
We've got
Cat's
the
like
pooch, haven't we?
trying
You want some
she's like
attention.
attacking my laptop.
Bless
um, yeah, no, and I think the more you look at other public sector workers as well, where they haven't got that support there. You know what I mean?
her.
Like you look at teachers and the amount of stress they're under is just like it's actually insane. It's
Yeah.
actually like borderline inhumane,
Mm.
and I just think we're so lucky that we've got something there that's there and it offers support in a lot of different variations.
Mm.
And even like for yourself, like yeah, you've gone up with a near injury, but 100%, if you've got a physical injury, there'll be some kind of well-being
Oh mate, yeah. I was
factor
like, am I going to stay
associated
in the
with that.
job? Can I do anything anymore?
Yeah,
Just feeling. I was the
yeah,
first time in my life I felt scared since I was a kid.
yeah.
I was
It's like
worried
so
like
you're so
if my
vulnerable,
dog's going
aren't
to run into me or if I'm going to fall down the stairs or if someone's going to
you?
bump
Yeah,
into me and I'll fall over and rip it again. And I was like, oh fucking
yeah,
hell, I've not felt vulnerable since I was a kid.
yeah. And like I said, I think a lot of us take it for granted. Like I've honestly never used the charity.
Mm.
I've when we cycled to Penrith, and I stayed the night at Penrith, and I were actually like blown away with how good it was, and
Yeah.
like the facilities they've got, and
Beautiful
just where
area as
it's
well.
located,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just think for anyone that's in the job, like I think just knowing that it's there and knowing that it's so acceptable to use it whenever you feel like you need to use it. But yeah, I just think we're so lucky to have it. Yeah, I think we've all got a duty to support it as much as we can.
I want to be super respectful of your time because we've gone for like an hour and 45 minutes already. I just blink and I miss it. But it's like a lot of what you do already. And I think subconsciously, a lot of this is part of your structure. And maybe like, I don't want to talk about maybe morning routines and, I don't know if you're fucking ice baths or whatever, but it's like, what do you do? Because you've come from there. And, we don't need to go into the depths of how you go over those first few months of Chelsea's passing and stuff like that. But what keeps you where you are today? Because it's like a wave in the mental health is a thing where it's like the weather. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. You get yourself into the outdoors. You've got
Yeah.
Rue and stuff like that. What do you think are some of your anchors that maybe you hold on to when it gets a bit stormy?
Yeah, I think it sets off, the simple things like we spoke about earlier. It's like make your bed in the morning. Like you've already got a tick on your. If you get up every morning, you make your bed, then you've already started the day and you're doing something. Something's gone
Yeah.
right on it. You're already like on that roll. If you get up late every day and if you you
Mm.
know, if you everything's a mess and you're racing around, and then that just carries on and follows you, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
for me personally, it's like starting off little, and like I said, it's like I run every day before work, and it could be
Really?
20 minutes, could be half an hour, it could be 40
Wow.
minutes. And it's like it's with no particular intent to do any kind of session or race, or I just get out and even when it's the winter when it's raining and it's cold and I wake up and I just like like Mark, just give yourself a day off today. Like you've earned it. Just roll
Yeah.
over and I literally like just kick myself out of bed and I'm like, just get out, go and do it. And like I've said, you never ever will come back from a run and go, I wish I didn't do that. Like
Yeah.
whatever it is that you've got going off, I feel like being outdoors or doing something or being like doing something physical, you'll always feel 1% better. Like always. Like so whatever it is that you've got going off, I just think go to that place what's your like meditative place. Like for me, running is meditative or being outdoors is like meditative. It relaxes me. Yeah, I can like focus. I can put like me ducks in a line. I can like sort things out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
Something
when
about
things
the
are
body
getting,
moving that almost distracts the body so the mind can
uh,
start sorting stuff out. Because otherwise, that what people call anxiety for me is like it's too much energy in my body. So as long if my body starts doing stuff, then my mind can go like, okay, the body's busy. I can sort my shit out now, and it kind of like starts to separate things out rather than it all being a big bundle of physical and mental energy.
yeah, and I just think, yeah, and same, and like, there's a lot of pressure on people now, and I feel like people, it's almost like, yeah, you need to get up every morning, make your bed, say your affirmations, get a cold shower, read a book, meditate, then go to work, and you go, fucking hell, man,
Fucking 3 hours before
like,
work, yeah, shit the bed.
yeah, and everyone feels like, well, if I'm not doing that, then I'm failing at life.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
no, like you do you,
yeah.
but start the day off right, like to a degree, like,
Mm.
and same like you can say all affirmations you want, but if you're not getting out and doing it, then It's a
Yeah,
waste of time. It's like, yeah, you can set that positive mindset and you can set these positive things, but like the only person that's going to do it for you is you. And you can stand in the mirror and go, I want to do this, and I want to run a marathon, and I want to do, you know. But at the end of the day, it's like I said at the start, you can't turn up at a race, have done no training, have done none of the hard work, and
yeah.
expect to pull a miracle out. Like you can't. And
No.
and for
And
me,
that's
racing,
self-discipline. It's doing the
yeah,
stuff when no one is watching. When no
yeah,
one is watching, no one will know
mate,
if you didn't get up, but you'll fucking know.
yeah.
When you get
But
in bed
that's
at night and you close your eyes, you're like,
yeah,
I wasn't the best version of it. It doesn't matter who the fuck else
yeah.
knows. It's when you lie to yourself.
And it's like for
Integrity
you,
is, are
mate.
you the person you say you are?
Yeah, when you go and do your challenge, when the day of the actual firefighter challenge, that's when you get to show off. Like
Yeah.
you show off all the hard work you've done. That day isn't like everyone comes to you and go, "Oh God, that must have been hard." And you go, "No, no, it's been the last 6 months of
Yeah.
training and doing it when I
Yeah.
couldn't be bothered,
The
when
boring
nobody's
shit, going
watching, and when no,
outside when everyone's sat down
yeah,
and you're hauling hose up 50 times.
yeah,
That boring shit, that's the hard
yeah."
shit.
When you could easily just go, could just sit here and drink
Yeah.
tea and do nothing,
Yeah.
and you've gone, no, get out, do it. Like I said, the end bit is the bit you get to show it off. Like you get to
Yeah.
show that off to everyone, and everyone gets to see how hard you've worked. And the people that truly understand will look at that point and go, well, you got what you deserved at that end point.
Yeah.
Like you didn't like someone will go, oh, amazing, you ran this in this time, and you go, yeah, but like I got what I deserved because I put in so much effort to
That's
get to
it.
that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not a lot of people can appreciate that effort to get there. And like I said, I think it's the same in fire service. It's like everyone thinks you do 7, 8 years, you're a senior firefighter, and you go, no, you're
No.
not. Like
Time in
your
service and
actions.
experience and stuff, they're two different spectrums. You could be the arse end of nowhere, have a shit set of team, a shit manager, and have low standards and never get any jobs. And you go, I've been in 12 years. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it makes no odds, does it?
Yeah.
Like the thing is like it's your actions and it's how you present yourself, how you present yourself to others, and like you said, the commitment that you put in to to learn when nobody's looking, and like an example I'll give you, and I mean I'll not name any names, but I know a lad we in the service that he went for an interview and they said, "Tell me about a time where you've gone above and beyond in your role, you've
Yeah.
shown excellence." Their answer to it were, "I failed a BA course, so I went away, I did some extra training, then I went back and passed the BA course." And
Okay.
they're like, "So you went below the minimum standard and then managed to just get back up to the minimum standard." And some people think in their head that's them proving excellence. And you go, well, if that's what
I
you think
mean,
excellence is, like if you turn around and went, yeah, fair enough, I dropped below the minimum standard and I recognize that. Then I went away, I did loads of extra training. I joined, BA Challenge. I started then training other people on shift and I started inspiring other people on shift. And I made up my own training scenarios and we came in on his
yeah,
days off and we did this extra stuff. And
yeah,
now I've got a group of people that come from different stations to come and train with us. Then you go, that's proving excellence. That's proving you going above
yes.
and beyond where you should be and what you should be doing. And I think like there's definitely like people that need to learn that what it gets to be good at
100%,
something.
mate. I always say
You
so
know,
few people will ever be excellent or great because good is so easily accepted. And good and or competent in our fire service analogy, for me, it's a hair's width away from dangerous. That's what it is. It's half a millisecond away from fucking killing somebody. It's half a millisecond away from not being safe on the Instagram. Competent, whilst it's an aspiration when you're a recruit, when I hate it when you see people going for fitness tests and they're like, oh, no one gave me notice. Motherfucker, they should turn up any fucking day. It's
oh,
embarrassingly
mate.
low, this fitness test is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't fucking
Well,
come to me with that. I'm
yeah.
like, and
You
I, and
can
I know
imagine what you can
you sound
imagine
like
what
it's an
my
elitist thing from people that hold themselves to a
yeah
higher standard, but
yeah
you've got to march to the beat of a different drum. The
yeah
competency level for me is like, if you're near that, it's like a plane that's scraping its ass on the runway.
yeah.
You're barely fucking flying.
A similar scenario. I remember watching. I were at training school and the recruits were there doing their fitness test, and there were some kids were amazing. Like you could tell they'd gone
Yeah.
away, they trained like mad. The fitness level were already up there. Like you
How
said,
do I
it's
train
not
for
a
the bleep
particularly
test,
high.
Mark? Fucking hell, bleep
Yeah,
test is as old as time. You don't ask me how to train for the fucking bleep test.
yeah,
Just fucking do
and
it.
yeah, exactly. If you want to get better at bleep test, run the bleep test.
Yeah.
Like, but there were some lads, just and lasses just cruising through it, and then there were other people. high-fiving each other when they got to end of it, celebrating. And I were almost like, you're literally celebrating that as a 22, 23-year-old, you've hit a very basic baseline level of fitness.
Yeah,
And to me, you wouldn't turn up for the interview and not prepare for it. So why would you turn up for a fitness test and not that is part of the interview. And it
mate.
should be just as important, especially in a career now where we're saying you need to work till you're 60. To me, the fitness side of it, the appetite to be fit.
Yeah,
If you haven't got the appetite at 22, 23-year old, what is your appetite going to be like at 50? You
yeah.
know, if you're choosing the easy route now,
Mm, mm,
what's
mm.
that route going to be when you're 50?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For some people, it's
And
just delusion. I mean, I don't know if you
yeah,
had it with the SAS. Like when you did the you have to go and do all the fitness tests before you go on the show, and you had to like 10 point something on the bleep test, and then a X number of sit-ups in a minute, and there was people come in, all the nice Gucci gear and stuff like that, and they got up to like 5.3 on the bleep test, and I'm like, why the fuck did you show up? Surely it said on the piece of paper what you had. Had you not practiced this in the park? You're fucking a long way off. Why did you come?
but they'd be the first people that can probably tell you, what to eat before it and,
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
many
They were
micro
there having their
whatever to,
pre-workouts and stretching, and
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
what the fuck?
And they've stood in front of a mirror and said their affirmations that morning.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? And you go, you can say as many affirmations and know as much knowledge as you want to know.
yeah,
But the truth is, the proof is in the pudding. It's like
yeah,
if you go out and put it in, you'll turn up to that day, that fitness test, whatever it is, and you'll be almost like, I can return up to fitness test an hour buzzing. I'm like, I'm gonna blow all your away. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? You're gonna have to tell me when to stop here.
Yes.
Like, and I want you
And
to do
that's
that. Like,
healthy. I think that's a healthy
yeah,
competitiveness. People think that's like,
yeah,
oh God, ego. That's not ego. You want,
no,
but in doing so, you're pushing everybody else as well. You're all pushing each other to that higher
yeah,
standard. Fuck the minimum. We'll go past the minimum in the
100%,
first
mate.
few minutes, and then
Yeah.
we're holding each other accountable.
I can remember when I was going through basic training, and same, you get like, we got run ragged, and they'd be like, right, go to that tree and back as fast as you can. And I'd blitz off, mate, in front of everyone, like I'm a complete idiot, as fast as I could, with no regard of what we're coming after. It's just like, well, I'll deal with that when that comes. And I can remember one of the lads saying, telling me to slow down. It's like, you're making all us look bad. Like, you need to slow down. And I can just be like, mate, not a chance. He's like,
Yeah,
oh, like, you need to speed up. If you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, he's told us maximum effort, and this is my maximum effort.
yeah.
And then suddenly you'd see everyone else like they don't want to be last, so they're speeding up. And like you said, if everyone just did the bare minimum, then what would
Mate,
the
and
level
that
be
is
at?
just that's perfect. It's like the perfect articulation. Even the stuff we're talking about, watch culture and stuff like that. I always say when people go out for a walk together, something happens. Nobody talks about it, and it's subconscious. But all of you either speed up to the fastest walker, or you all slow down to the slowest walker. Nobody ever speaks about it. It just happens, and that is fucking culture. That is
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about there. That rising tide raises all the ships. Do you know what I mean? That's everyone
yeah.
gets that, just dials themselves up or down, and it brings us back to that value of association, the people you're choosing to place yourself around.
I just read one the other day, and it was like you know what I mean. I need to keep things simple for me, like and like definitions and stuff like that. And I read one, and it was just like it said culture, and it just says it's the way that we do things. And then at side of it, it said when nobody's looking. And I was like, yeah, that is it. That to me, that is culture. Like
Yeah.
it's what you do when nobody's looking. Like, do you still get up and go out for that run? You know what I
Mm,
mean, you're telling everyone you're doing this, and you're telling everyone you're doing that,
yeah.
and it's like it's what you do when nobody else is there, when nobody's in your corner, when nobody's cheering you on. That, like I said, that marathon day, that day that you do what you've trained for, that is the day you get to show off. Like
Yeah.
that's the day. It's like or you get found out. Like it's
Yeah.
either one or
100%.
other. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it now, and I think anyone who's going thinking of a career in fire service and looking at going through that recruitment process, only thing I'd say is like if you commit the time,
Mm,
you'll turn up to it and you'll enjoy the process.
yeah.
Like you'll be terrified for
Mm.
every sitting
And
in
you should
front of
be.
like
You
yourself.
should be excited. Should be
Yeah,
nervous.
yeah, yeah.
That's your
And that
body
mate,
telling you
I
it's
can remember
important.
having
Yeah.
yeah, I can remember having to sit on my hands because my hands were shaking, kind of thing. And like, but at the same time, it's like I kind of came out and I thought, if I haven't got a job, then I can't be in this career because
Yeah.
I've given it everything.
Yeah.
To a degree, I've given it so much, and I've really put myself out there to like learn as much as I can. And if that isn't enough, then it's not for me.
Yeah.
And I just think if you go in with that attitude to start with, and if if you try to carry it on, and there'll be certain people in all walks of life that'll try and knock that out of you because
Oh
it makes
yeah.
them feel better about themselves.
Yes. That validates their decision not to try.
Yeah.
Mm.
And but you make them feel worse about themselves, and that's their issues. And I don't feel like you should dim your own light to accommodate that as someone else.
100%.
But yeah, I
100%.
just think anyone who's going into it, I just think, or in it now, and it's like, don't stop, don't rest on your laurels, don't
Mm.
stop learning things because you've done your probation. Like, don't then go, I'm done. Like, there's
I'm the
another
shit.
recruit in
Yeah.
there, and now
Yeah.
they're spoon, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you go, no, like, keep learning. And you know what I mean? I've yo-yoed in I've done this job now for 15 years, and I've done different aspects of the job. I've done the military, the aviation side, the on-call, the all-time. And I've yo-yoed in attitude, and a lot of it's come from like the culture and the environment that I've put
Yeah.
myself in. And if you're around them people that are just, feet up every day, telling you
Fucking
that the
energy
mates are on
vampires,
500, yeah,
flamethrowers.
yeah, they're telling you how their mates electricians are on £500 a day, and it's rubbish, and it's worst job in the world, and you think if you and you mean it's like a cancer, mate. It spreads, that negative
100%.
energy just spreads, and you suddenly become the same person where you just sat there moaning about everything. And
Yeah.
you say it a lot on this podcast where you say we're problem solvers,
Mm.
and
100%.
I've been on crews where we're problem finders. We're
Mm.
constantly
Oh, fuck
finding
yeah.
things that are wrong, things that
Yeah.
need fixing, and we're not doing anything about it. We're just offloading
It's
to like a
recreational
watch manager,
negativity.
yeah, to a
We're
watch manager,
just,
crew manager, and going, this
mm.
needs fixing, that needs fixing, this ain't right, that ain't right. But I'm not going to talk about it. But you now need to fix all them things that I've just told you.
Yeah.
And you go, no, like you join this job as well as me, and it's
Yeah.
like you have a responsibility. If you found something, what are you doing to try and make it better? Like how are you improving then the fire service? Like
Come with me
it
to a
isn't just
problem,
about
but with a solution. And then we'll talk about it. I'm happy to take responsibility if it goes wrong. I don't have to be in charge, and I certainly don't need to take the credit. But I'll take responsibility. If this all fucking blows up and someone gets hurt, it's my fault. Hands up. But I don't have to have
same
all
with
the ideas. I'm not the smartest person here.
If it's same with what you're doing with podcasts, like I'm pretty sure you probably sat there before you came up with the idea of doing it, like saying that this information needs to be out there, or that, or people need to have these conversations, and you've actually got the balls to go out and do it. And you know what I mean? That'll have inspired so many other people to do that bit more, or it almost like shames them to go, God, he's
But
doing
I
all
want to
this.
inspire him to fuck stuff up because I always say it's learning out loud. The part I'll have come
Yeah,
on here, I'll have quoted the wrong stuff about Mark, I'll have got your background wrong, I'll have quoted something wrong from a national operational guy, I'll have fucked it all up, and someone will have corrected me live on a podcast. Oh God, fucking hell, am I going to get sacked?
yeah,
No, it's fine. I'm learning. It's about me to go. Yeah, shit, right, great point there, Mark. Oh, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Oh, great. That's what it's all about, and be willing to make those mistakes and find the solutions together.
it's real and unpolished. Like I feel like so much now is what I mean? We need to be perfect at
Oh,
everything
fuck.
we do, and we need to say
Yeah.
all the right words and all the right, the
I need to seem the
the
consummate professional. And that's when you said it
yeah,
perfectly earlier. It's like what people see on your social media is only a small glimpse of who you really are. This is why I think podcasting is one of the purest forms of social media because it doesn't allow for the perfection. It's all over the place. I'll interrupt you and you'll interrupt
yeah,
me. But that's who Mark really is. That's who I really
yeah,
am. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the perfect edited picture of the thing and the what's it. You know what I mean? It's the fuck up before it and after it, and the
yeah.
dog doing whatever, and fiddling with and that'll stay in. I'm not gonna edit that out. The dog bashing the lap. Fucking that's life, for God's sake. Do
Yeah,
you
of
know what I
course
mean?
it is,
Deal
man.
with
Yeah,
it.
but it is. It's like I just feel like now we're so edited, and everything is so like
Yeah,
prescripted and perfect and stuff like
yeah,
that. And the best things, like the best conversations I've listened to on this podcast are the ones that are just like real. Like it's like nobody else is. It's like I'm just literally sat with my mate Pete and I'm having a conversation with him and we're just
yeah.
talking like what you said. Some of the best conversations you have in a watch room, like gold, aren't they? You just think,
Yes,
God, like
you
we
just
should be like
wish, like, I wish I'd have
politicians or
recorded that because that was so
yeah,
funny. It was so true. Oh, there was
yeah,
some really heartfelt moments in it. There was some good self-reflection in there. There was some great
yeah.
ideas. There was some great banter. But people go, "Oh no, God! If so and so heard that, I'd be sacked." Well, fucking hell! And then what do we end up with? People look at this sterile thing called the emergency services and go, "Oh, don't really know anything about it because it's boring. This is for me trying to open up the bay doors, open up the curtains, and go, yeah, we're humans, and there's some incredible people in here, like Mark, like James, like Sarah. There's so many incredible people. But if we try and act sterile all the time, you sterilize something too much, you kill everything that's interesting about it. You kill all the features and the bugs.
And you stop learning. You stop learning because you're petrified of saying anything or
Mm-hmm.
like putting yourself, like you generally have put yourself on a pedestal to get shot at. There'll be 100% everyone will be firing shots at you because you're doing something and you're willing to have them conversations and you're willing to like kind of take that on chin.
But I
And
love that. And people message me and they're like, I love this episode, mate. By the way, this bit or that bit was actually wrong, but I really enjoyed the episode. And I'm like, dude, wicked. Thank you for letting me know.
yeah,
At least I know that now and I can reflect on it and use it in a different one. But I'm willing to be out there and people go, dude, you were fucking way left. I see what you were trying to do, but loads of that was wrong. That's fine.
yeah.
That's okay. Tell me about it.
And as well, it's like I think, and I've definitely been victim of it. It's like you can have 1,000 people say something positive to you, and one person will say something negative, and I'll walk away, and it's like, you know what I mean? I don't walk away going, yeah, but that one in 1,000, and he's like, well, no, but the one who said this or said that or said other, and you go,
Yeah. It's a
he's
survival
trying to,
mechanism. We look for the
yeah,
negative and try and avoid it. It's a survival thing.
we cling to it. Like you said, that's why the news is generally negative because the human brain like attaches to it more
Yeah.
than positive news. You know what I mean?
100%.
So
100%.
that's why that's the way the way it is, and he's trying to train yourself to go. You know what? Like it's probably frustration that they're not
Yeah.
doing something that they want to do, or they feel like they're underachieving, or
Yeah.
you'll make them feel worse about themselves in that aspect,
Yeah.
and they're not willing to go. Do you know what? Like fair play to him, her, or whatever that what they're doing, and that's going to make me do that little bit more, or like start doing something, or take that first step. And
100%.
yeah,
Love that, mate.
and not everyone like I say to everyone like people say to me all the time, I go, oh, I want to run a marathon, but I hate running. And I'm like, so why do you want to run a marathon? Like,
Yeah. Oh, because I
like
like the
why?
idea of what it looks like if I ran a
Exactly,
marathon.
exactly. Yeah, I want the medal at the end. I want to be able to tell everyone that I've run a marathon. And you go, I'd run a marathon regardless of whether it were an event or not. Like, it
That's the
doesn't.
thing.
That
People
ain't
think they have to wait for an event. It's like, well, just go to your park. It's 3 miles
yeah,
round.
go do
Just
it.
run that 10
Yeah,
times. You know what I mean? It might
yeah.
take you all day. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but like I said, it's that way you go. Well, you haven't got to do what you don't like doing. Like, go find what if you like knitting, go and knit. Like, do whatever you want to do, whatever
Yeah.
makes you happy. If it truly makes you happy, go and do it. Don't just do stuff to try and fit in or to try and you think that's what you need to do, or you think that'll make you a better person, or more of a man, or more of a better firefighter. Like you're like just
And I think that
do
is
what
one
you
of
like.
the positives about social media, to be fair, because now the world is so accessible. The flip side of that is you can get passionate about anything. If you're interested in fishing, violin playing, dog training, whatever it is, you can get a passion about that. You can do a page about it. You can start a podcast about it, and you can find your own community. You can find a whole bunch of people that love cycling, that love ultramarathons, that love foraging for mushrooms, fucking whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it's never been so accessible. There's so many resources for everybody these days.
Oh, it is, yeah, yeah. There's almost like an overload of information out there for everyone. In there, it's like a very good point in time in that sense. You know what I mean? Like even with the fire service, it's like people can find out so much. Like people have got so much knowledge now in fire
Oh yeah.
service. It's like
Versus when we
incredible.
joined, they can just there's so many resources now. You can listen to
Yeah,
this, there's YouTube pages, there's God, everything.
and same. It's like it's not trying to sound like a fossil, but we had like
Manuals of firemanship, and you have to go and borrow it from your
manuals
on
of
call
firemanship.
station
I've
to
still
be
got
able
them
to
upstairs.
fucking practice. Mate,
Yeah,
it's here. It's fucking this thing here. Do you know what I mean? It's still on the
but
side, and it's like fucking hell.
yeah,
That came out
and
in 1945 or something.
yeah, and even
Ridiculous.
like the Bible on it, it's like everything we took from that. Like, nah, I follow a group like American firefighters, and I get to see what they do and how they train, and I get like there's so much out there now, like as in knowledge, and we've got no excuse, have we, to
Yeah,
be to
man.
bring new ideas and to be like innovative at work because there's just what I mean. There's every opportunity out there if you're into it.
It's not your resources, it's your resourcefulness. I said, and that's what brings it
Yeah,
all into that personal sphere of control. If I want to go for it, I can. I can message Mark. I can ask Pete. I can message fucking whoever from America and ask them how they did that technique. Bring it back. Learn, train, practice.
and then mate, it's like exactly what you started this podcast off with when you said, like, I said, oh, what I mean, you are a big guy. And you're like, yeah, but that's not an excuse.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's
I'm
like,
always
what
going.
I mean?
What am I going to do? Cut a limb off fucking try and
Yeah.
shrink myself 7 inches. No, you've got what you've got. What are you going to do with it? You know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And are you going to work hard, or are you going to go, I'm not going to work as hard because I'm already at a disadvantage to everyone else.
Mm,
So I'll stop working as hard, and you go,
100%.
no, you should almost like you'll work harder, then you'll be better than everyone else then.
Yeah, I love that, mate. I want to be super respectful of your time, but I also want to ask, what's kind of coming up? Because you're the sort of guy, before you even, I bet the day before the marathon, you'll be like, well, tomorrow I'll have finished this. So yeah, that Just Giving page is still open. We'll drop it in the notes, but what's on your spectrum now? What's tickling in the back of your mind? And when are you going to, I said to the lads the other day on the Firefighter Challenge, I said, when are you going to come and have a play at one of the challenges?
Oh, mate, I went once and you absolutely whooped me.
Yeah, I remember when you came down and trained with me
I'm
and
so
John. But that was years ago. You've done so much.
Yeah.
You're a different person than you were then.
Definitely fancy it. Definitely fancy get having a go at it again. And it's like super fun, man.
How
And
old are you
like
now?
35.
35. So you'll be one of the youngest in that category. I think that category starts at 35. So these next 2 years will be your best chance at smashing the hell out of somebody because you're in a new bracket now, I think.
Yeah, so I do fancy giving it a go. I don't know at the minute. I've got a few other things. I'm doing the ride London, the potential ride end of next month. It's like an
Nice.
100 mile. Like same. It's just like to me, it's just going to be fun. Like doing 100
I'm
mile ride
enjoying
through London.
cycling more now. It's gentler on the
Yeah,
joints for me. Yeah.
I think that's naturally where I'll progress to at some point. I
Yeah.
imagine. I'm climbing Maton with one of my friends in September.
Wow.
I've signed up to a 5-day ultra marathon in Jordan back end of year. Yeah, and just kind of
Man,
just
that's incredible.
plodding about, doing bits and bobs and
Staying busy.
whatever.
How old's the puppy now? How old is he? Is he 3, 4?
She's 2.
2,
Yeah,
sorry. Wow. So you've still
yeah,
got some training to do there. I feel like the next 6, 7 months of my life, I'm just going to be elbow deep in doing the
yeah,
fundamentals. It's the small drills all the time. It's the 5 and 10 minute training sessions with the dog to try and get those fundamentals in again.
and it's mate, one of the best decisions I ever made. Like I run every day with Rue. She's like awesome now, and it's
Yeah,
it's like I think for me it's like the best like running accessory you can have is a dog to
100%.
do it with and to share it with. And like I almost felt guilty because I was spending so much time outside, and I just thought, man, like this would be such a good life for a dog. And they are hard work, you know what I mean? It's a massive, massive commitment getting
A
a
huge
dog.
return on
And I'm
investment, though. Huge return.
yeah,
That those
yeah,
first 2 years, just getting them right, and then you've got an
yeah.
incredible companion for 10, 12,
And just
13 years.
what the teacher like, as in they're just so giving and loving, and it's such a good thing to have one. I think anyone that's not into dogs is just a bit strange, but
And I'm totally the same. It always had them.
yeah, I just feel like she's class. Like, I love it.
I'm absolutely the same, mate. We lost 2 of our dogs a couple of years ago, and I was like, no, we've got to get some more. They're a huge part of my life. They're a huge part of my happiness. And they also help develop my self-awareness. When you're trying to communicate with something that doesn't speak your language and you're trying to get it to do the thing and not do the thing, and that's a
Yeah,
huge self-awareness game changer as well.
yeah,
Um, we're obviously going to leave people wanting more, so we'll drop a note in the notes. We've got the link to Just Give In. We've got the link to your socials as well. Where do you think is the best place for people to go if they want to see a little bit more about what you're doing, or obviously to donate, or just try and maybe get inspired to go and do something themselves?
yeah. I think it'd just be just through Instagram. I'm more active on that than anything, so yeah, that's the best place to go. But yeah, no, thanks for that, mate.
Send my love to the gang. Send my love to everybody on watch, and I look forward to catching up with you soon, mate.
Yeah, definitely, mate. We need to sort it out.
Cheers, brother. Love you lots. I'll speak to you soon.
See you soon, mate.
Firefighters podcast is put together to develop, inspire, and hopefully even motivate those individuals who have chosen to serve our communities and be part of the first responder family. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Peart Wakefield. If you have enjoyed today's episode and you want to see the podcast continue, please head over to our Patreon page where you can support the ongoing efforts of the podcast. Please hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on whatever platform you're listening to. Please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.